One of my subscribers said, I'm addicted to drama on YouTube. And all of a sudden, your videos have really brought a whole different kind of drama into my life. And I replied to this gal and I said, stay tuned. If you think the drama addicts are interested now, they're going to have a lot more to be interested in the future, particularly when it starts to impact their lives. Let's get into it today because, well, 2025 is shaping up to be a barn burner, and you want to open your brain a little bit, pull back from the rest of the crap that you usually do, and engage. Let's get into it today. And a very good morning to all of you. As I said in one of my recent videos, in all of my years on Earth, I've never seen so much chaos in such a short period of time. And I know some people have said to me, Rosie, you've got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. You got to upset the apple cart first before you go. You got to break Humpty Dumpty before you try to put him back together again. We're going to talk about that a bit today. But if you're not subscribed, subscribe and hit that bell for all notification. I've been really gratified. My inbox has been overflowing with ideas for videos and requests for videos, so try to carefully move through them to encompass some answers that can go out in a general sort of way and answer a lot of them. You want to be a part of this because, well, one thing I can predict to you for sure is your life is going to change a lot in 2025, and you're going to be pulled out of your stupor on social media in a lot of different ways, and your interest is going to spread to the real world now from this fantasy world of back and forth and toing and froing on social media. And a large part of that has to do with some of the things that are underway. Over the weekend, we saw that 25% tariffs were dropped on Canada and in Mexico, and 10% tariffs are on the way for China. Many of these are supposed to take place beginning on Tuesday, but we go a little deeper here to see what's behind all this. And to my knowledge, I'm the only one that I've seen anywhere on any economic analysis, from the Wall Street Journal to Investors Business Daily to the New York Times to CNBC to Bloomberg. I don't say this as a point of pride, but I say there's more to this than meets the eye. And what I see is an attempt to radically raise revenue in what's perceived to be a painless way. And it's also unfair, as I'm going to get into, because it works like a hidden tax that is not, it's not scaled in any nature, so that it impacts the lower income, the lower middle class, less than it does the upper classes. And that's what you have to really realize. You got to understand, on the one side here, is I've pounded on again and again and again, is that we're starting to reach the limits of what's practical in terms of raising money to cover our growing debt. Remember that asymptotically, parabolically raising curve that shows that the service on the debt, the amount of debt is just going up astronomically now, like a Saturn V rocket taking off. You got to fund that, right? We talked about door A, we talked about door B, right? But we didn't talk about door C, which is going to be a future video, is the ramifications of print, baby, print, right? Just flood the market, right? Treasury just prints dollars like crazy, and, well, it's just used to cover our... We're going to get into that in a future video because, well, that's what I call the Venezuelization of America and much of the West, when the printing presses are just engaged and it just becomes a free-for-all, of a race to the bottom in terms of standards of living. But let's get back to this tariff situation. The practical effects of tariffs are immediate. If you raise the cost of, I don't know, some produce from Canada, some lumber products from Canada, all kinds of things from Canada. If you raise them 25%, a couple things are going to happen. Yes, you're going to have more inflow into the Department of External Revenue here. There will be billions of more dollars coming in, but there will also be a depressing effect that begins to occur on the ability and the willingness of Americans here to consume Canadian products, while simultaneously, on the other side of the border, assuming that there's an equivalent 25% tariff put on, there'll be a gradual breaking, a gradual reduction in the consumption of American goods. We can say the same thing in Mexico, right? If the cost of products, a car is going to go up $3,000, $4,000, that might be enough to knock somebody out of being able to finance that car, which means that car won't be bought. You know, well, maybe you say, well, maybe dealers will give up their outrageous markups on the lot. Yeah, that too. But apart from that, as the price of something goes up, the ability and the willingness of people to consume goes down. And with counter tariffs on each side, it has a perfectly canceling effect that only does one thing. It shifts some money around from one government to another. But what it also does when these tariffs kick in is it works to slow the economy altogether. And it also works on this hidden tax that starts to hit people, because if you need something, you now have to pay more for it. And if you're on fixed income, or you're existing lower middle class, it hurts when you have to pay more for something, especially when you realize, gee, it's just tit for tat going on, and they're paying 25% more there. We're paying 25% more here. We've just effectively negated the use of tariffs, and we've now turned them into weapons that can decrease consumption and slow down economies. Not to mention, I don't even want to get into the holy smokes, you know, when one of the U.S. hockey teams took the ice in Toronto today, they were booed. I never imagined that Canadians would ever be booing America. Not to mention the tremendous damage that's being done to international relationships, particularly with our neighbors. Tariffs, yes, they can be brutal in terms of the unexpected consequences that occur when tariffs are put into place. Remember, I'll give you a quick refresher on history. Smoot-Hawley was passed in the late 20s, the Protective Tariff Act. I think it was Senator Hawley of Oregon and Senator Smoot of New Jersey co-authored this, or one of them was a congressman and one of them was a senator. These tariffs, and when they were put into place, they were like 20% tariffs. It didn't take long for dozens of nations to respond with their own tariffs. And what that did at the very same time that the economy was slowing down because of the inability of people to consume in the late 1920s, everything that mass production was able to spew out, thereby leading to the Great Depression. This just came in as a steel-toe boot, bam, and gave everybody a further kick in the butt in terms of manufacturing production in the world. It just acted like a tax, and that's all a tariff is. It is a tax. If you want to continue to buy something, you pay the increased price of it, which is a tax. Okay, so what was the effect of that? The effect of that was in the early 1930s, and by the depths of the Depression in 1933, International trade, imports and exports had declined 66%. That's how much world trade slowed down, right? It was a disaster, right? It was an absolute disaster. And when Roosevelt came in 1934, he engineered the Tariff Reduction Acts, and things started to go back to some normalization. But we live in a time now where the response rates amongst governments and amongst talking heads is almost instantaneous now, right? It might have taken a week or so, 10 days for, what are we going to do? And then we think about it, right? I mean, we got to respond within like 4 hours, right? We don't have time to cool things down. But what you should be particularly concerned about is that when we talk about how when somebody says we're not going to raise taxes on Americans, understand that the tariffs are a huge tax, particularly since so much of our products are imported these days. That, well, what is a revenue raiser on one side is a tax increase, a tremendous tax increase on the other side, thereby driving more people into a lower standard of living and really putting stress on a great part of the economy. As I've said before, you don't cure an imbalance by running away from the competition, right? If something's profitable enough, you'll make it. And maybe it becomes a point where your standard of living has to drop to a level where it matches that nation that's flooding you with cheap crap. If that's it, so be it. No amount of protectionism in the world can sustain a standard of living that is going to fall on its own. If not slowly, then in one massive break. Ultimately, of course, we know the world has to be equalized in terms of standards of living and things like that. And that's the adjustment that's got to come now. And boy, this 25% tax doesn't help, right? Well, I hope you enjoyed this foray into tariffs with a little bit of a historical perspective thrown into what we can expect to happen here. The European Economic Union has already weighed, hey, we're ready, bro, right? We're ready, bring it on, right? You start popping this stuff on us, and it's coming. So, but I for one am much more concerned about the ramifications of having good, solid allies in the world and people that are your friends, and disrupting that. Well, it better be worth it when all is said and done. Hey, I welcome your comments down below. And once again, if you're not subscribed, subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications. Hey, we get down to the nitty gritty here, and you're not going to hear the things discussed here that you hear anywhere else. And trust and believe in 2025, more and more people are going to wake up to the reality that the real drama is not on social media. It's in the world around them as they see that come unhinged and go crazy. So better to be ahead of the wave than to be crushed by it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Subscribe, hit that bell for all notifications. Thumbs up are appreciated. And let me know your comments down in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, everybody.